Hi, how you doing today? I hope you're having a wonderful day. God is good. I'm glad you joined me on my channel. Before we get any further, I got a little bitty thing here. Down in the bottom right hand corner is a red button. If you would click subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and if you want to share it with a friend, it would really help me out, or somebody you go to church with, or a relative. I need to get to 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 viewing hours in 1 year in order for them to push my video out. My video's going on, but the only people see it are ones that are subscribed and they know I've got a post, or somebody stumbles into it. So I could use your help if you would. Thank you for everyone that has. That's over. Let's get right into it. Today we're going to talk about protecting your family. Protecting your family. And I'm not talking about guarding your house from thieves or anything like that. But let me make one little disclaimer here. I am a retired bivocational pastor. I worked in the car business because 80% of the church in the United States have 60 or less people in their congregation on Sunday morning. 1,500 ministers every month are resigning from the ministry. So, that being said, a lot of pastors out there have to work a job. Also, being a full-time pastor, I was one of them. Plus, I evangelized for a lot of years. So, I have no vested interest in what I'm going to talk about. All right? Nobody in my family sells insurance. I don't sell insurance or anything. Okay? So, we got that covered. Protect your family. I'm going to tell you. After preaching well over 100 funerals, it could be 250, 350. It's a lot. A lot of funerals I preached, plus I've sang at a lot of funerals. Then my father was a minister, and he preached a lot of funerals, and some of the people didn't go to our church. So my dad sometimes would take me with him, and we would go to the funeral, and he would preach it, and then we would go to the graveyard, and he'd do the graveside service, and then sometimes he'd take me out to lunch, or we'd go for a ride before he took me home. So I was around hundreds of funerals. Hundreds. And I can tell you what I've heard from people, and this is after 50 years of preaching and being all over, is I hear people say, how am I going to pay for this funeral? How am I going to pay to dig the grave? How am I going to pay for a tombstone? I don't have any money. All right? One thing, we'll talk about men for a minute, all right? Most women, not all, most women outlive men. It's just a fact. Most women outlive men. The last time I looked, people that are 100 years old in the United States, 90% of them were women, 10% were men that made it to 100 or more. So, men, I'll speak to you first before I talk to the women. Do you want to leave your family with a bunch of medical bills? Leave your family with all sorts of debt? And because I financed cars for years as a business manager, I also did the business manager's job and a general manager and a general sales manager in charge of new and used cars, etc. I had a lot of people. I asked the young man and his wife, I said, can I ask you something? Yeah, they were both 32. Do you have life insurance? They said, why do you ask? I said, well, when you buy this new truck, with the car payment you have for your wife, with what you owe on the home, and I said, with your charge card debt, you owe about $150,000 worth of bills. Well, I got life insurance at work. I go, how much is it? I think it's $15,000. They give it to us with the health insurance. I don't have to pay for it. I said, you got 4 kids and a wife and $150,000 worth of debt. Do you want to die and then leave that on your wife? Not only that, she's going to have to try to pay for a funeral, a tombstone, dig in the grave, go out shopping for a grave. I said, that's a horrible thing. And he goes, well, we haven't thought about it. I probably won't die for years. I said, well, go out to the cemetery and look at all the tombstones, and you'll see all sorts of tombstones out there. 10 years old, 3 years old, 21 years old. You don't have to be old to die. I said, I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything like that. We've already done the paperwork. I'm just telling you, you need to protect your family. So if something happened to you, your children could still go to college or trade school or whatever they wanted, and your wife wouldn't wind up living hand to mouth. Plus, she's going to probably lose the home. And I said, so, and I said, I took the liberty, since you were in here last night, I found 3 insurance companies, and there's a dozen more on the internet. All you got to do is log on. You can get $250,000 of life insurance for $21 a month. He goes, what? I said, you can get $250,000 for 21. You can get $500,000 for about $33, $34 a month. He goes, well, I thought it was a lot more. I said, it's term insurance. I said, if you lock it in for 20 or 30 years, the premium will never change and your wife and children are protected. What happens is people have a death in the family and they wind up having to face all this, and they shouldn't have to face that. They're already grieving. They lost their loved one and they're struggling, and you owe it to your family to protect them. And it don't cost a fortune, especially when you're in 20s and 30s. I even ran into a man the other day who was 55, and he just got life insurance. He got $100,000 locked up for 20 years, and it was going to cost him $38 a month at age 55 for $100,000, locked in for 20 years, so he'll be 75 when the policy ends. What I'm saying is, in today's market, a lot of people say, well, I can't afford it, life insurance. You can't afford not to have it. Because what will happen to your family if you die, all right? Or if you lose the wife. Most of the wives now, 85% of wives work a full-time job also. If you lose their income and you got 4 kids, you got a real mess. Or 2 kids, or 1, or whatever. A family should not have to worry about things like that. And it's really hard to worry about having to go out and do things. Now, I'll tell you something about myself, and I'll just tell you this real quick, and this is not a knock on my father and mother, because my mother and father bought graves from the town she was raised in. My dad said he didn't care where he buried him, and he was from Illinois, she was from Missouri, so she bought graves, but they were 200 miles from our house. When my dad passed away, she said, son, I don't want to bury your dad 200 miles away. I know he's gone. I'm a Christian. I'm a ladies minister, and I know the Bible, but I still would like to have him closer to home. Would you do me a favor? All right, now, my dad died on Wednesday, and on Friday night was the last night of the viewing. Saturday was his funeral. Monday morning, I turned 18 years old. So my mom asked me on Thursday, would you go out and try to find some graves for me and your dad? And she gave me the checkbook and told me how much she could afford to spend. She goes, I just can't do it. She was overwhelmed when Dad died. So I went out and got in the car and drove around to all the graveyards. I knew where they were all at. And a lot of them were in the same row out on Lee May Ferry Road in South County. And I drove out there. I found the grave. I called her, told her, and I went on and took care of it. Then she asked me to go with her a week later and go get the tombstone. And we went and did that together. And so what are you saying? I'm saying I was grieving for my father. Now, I did this to help my mother out. But people that don't have a grave, all right, they got to go out and do that. They've just lost their loved one. They go meet with a funeral home. They can't think straight. They're grief-stricken. And then they take you down or give you a book and look at all the caskets. And then they talk about the vault and this and that. And, you know, the average funeral in the United States is $9,000 to $10,000. Now, I've heard people say this at the funeral home all the time. Well, when my time comes, they can just bury me in a gunny sack and throw me out in the backyard. I don't care. Well, that's a really cute joke to say at the funeral home, but here's the deal. You can't do that. You have to have proper burial, whatever way it is. You say, and I've heard people say, well, just cremate me and dump my ashes, all right? I checked into cremations, depending on where you're at, and we're in the Midwest, but it varies, but I'm giving you a rough idea. It varies between $1,500 and $2,500 from all the ones I've found for a cremation. And then they want to sell you an urn to put it in. And they can be $100, $300, $500 or more for the urn. All right, plus the cremation. If you have no money, that's still a lot of money. You're talking around $2,000 to $3,000 depending on where you're living at. So telling your family, just dig a hole and throw me in it, or just burn me and throw my ashes away, it doesn't work that way. You can't leave that. A Christian man needs to be more in tune with God and his responsibility. The Bible says to take care of your own family. If you don't take care of your own family, you're worse than an infidel. You owe it to your family. If you're a lady out there, you need to have insurance also so it doesn't happen to your husband. If you're a single mom, you really, really need it. Your children need to be taken care of. And so we need to realize that if you're young, 20s and 30s, even in your 40s, you can get a lot of life insurance for less than $50 a month and protect your family. You say, why are you doing this? Why don't you preach a sermon? Because I get tired of seeing all these families struggling and seeing these families go without, and have a wife sitting there in front of me, tears running down her face. I can't even think. Her husband just got killed. He was only 42 years old. She's 40. And she's saying, I got to find out what funeral home we're going to take him to. We never talked about this. We thought this would be a long way down the road, Pastor. I don't know what to do. And then I got to get a casket, and I don't even have a grave. What are we going to do? And she's just beside herself. She's grieving beside herself. Taking care of all this in advance takes that off your family. If you already know where you're going to be buried and your grave's already bought, it's already been paid to dig it, and you've already got life insurance to protect your family, then your wife, while she's grieving and while your children are grieving, they don't have to handle all that stuff. Plus, if you're grieving real bad, when you walk into the funeral home, you're going to want to buy the best of everything for a 1-hour service and for a viewing, and then it goes in the ground and never comes up again. If it was me, I'd buy a wood a wood box and say, let's don't spend a lot of money on a funeral. But that's just me. Been around them all my life. Been singer, been a preacher, done the funerals. So we need to realize that your family shouldn't have to take all that on while they're grieving. And you could eliminate a lot of burden off your wife, or you could eliminate a lot of burden off your husband if you would take care of that. All right? Do you want to live and have your family live, and for them to have a bunch of bills that they can't pay? And maybe if the children are older, they have to go to work to help their mother out because they're in such a financial bind. All right? I got a video on that part about a family member. I've paid, right now, my wife and I have paid part or all of 3 funerals. All right? It's not pleasant when you find out a family member who should have had life insurance didn't, and then you have to take care of it. All right? So let's don't do that to your family. Your children, you want them to be able to go to college if they want, or go to trade school, or if they just graduate high school and they don't want to go further with their education, they've got some money. You can help them get a car and say, if it wasn't for your father leaving the life insurance, this is his money buying you this car, or vice versa, your mom, or whatever, and helping your children out. If you're a man and you die unexpectedly, can your wife and your family get by okay and be able to survive on what you're leaving them? You need to protect your family. Why? It says in 1 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 4, I know this about an overseer and deacons. Now this is about overseers and deacons, but I'm going to tie it in with you. Just wait 1 minute. But it shows how a Christian man should take care of his family. It spells in there that you have to take care of your family. He must be one who manages his own household well, keeping his children under control with all dignity. Verse 5, but if a man does not know how to manage his own household, how will he be able to take care of Christ and take care of the church of God? How can he take care of the church of God if he's not a good manager? This is talking about an overseer or a deacon, but we can also expand it to you. If you're a Christian and your family is there, you must be the one who manages a household well and will take care of your family. But if you don't know how to manage your own household, how do you manage your own household? Cover yourself. You don't drive cars without car insurance. They're not going to let you have a house loan if you don't have house insurance. So if a tornado takes it away or a flood hits it or it burns down, you can pay the loan off and you've got money left and you can start on with another house. You do that. But when it comes to you and your wife, you don't have no life insurance. Or, well, did they give me some at work? $15,000 or $25,000 is nothing when you're raising a family. Look how much money it takes you in 1 year to feed your family, pay for the house, the utilities, car insurance. It costs a lot of money. So you need to realize, reason I'm doing this, I've seen so many families hurt. I've seen many families struggle. I've seen so many families spend way too much on the funeral. Way much. Because they feel guilty and because they're hurt and they've got to make a decision right now and they're sitting there. They buy what they can't afford to pay for. Why? Because nothing's been taken care of. Now the Bible says it's appointed unto man once to die, and after that the judgment. And unless we get raptured out, everybody's going to die someday. You might as well face it, hiding yourself away from it, thinking, well, I'll live to be 80 or 90. You may not. All right? You don't know how long you'll live. But you've got a wife and children. If you have a wife and children, or wife's going to have a husband and children, or a single mom that's raising her kids and her husband, whatever, either died, they got a divorce, whatever it may be, you've got to provide for your family, and you can't do it if you don't make arrangements in advance. You can't do it from the grave. It's too late. How can you be a good steward with your household if you don't leave an inheritance for your family? The Bible teaches this, and I'll teach this in another video about leaving your children an inheritance. How can you do that if you can't pay for your own funeral? All right? It's a terrible thing to face, but it's true. Take care of your family's future and protect your wife or protect your husband. Protect your family. All right? Don't let your family have to... The last thing you leave your family for you is a GoFundMe page. That's your gift to them. They got to get a GoFundMe page on Facebook so they can help pay for your funeral, your grave, dig in the grave, and pay for the funeral bill. And they have to face all that with no money. So if you love your family, the last gift you give them will not be a GoFundMe page so they can try to raise money and get their relatives and friends and people they work with to help them pay for your funeral. Is that what you want to leave your family with? The last thing you want to give your kids? A GoFundMe page? Because dad didn't have the wherewith or mom didn't have the wherewith to get life insurance? I get nothing out of this. I'm not got a commercial on here. I don't sell life insurance. Not trying to do it. I'm just trying to tell you from all the years I preach funerals, I get so tired of seeing people hurt so bad and they've lost a loved one, and usually a lot of the time some of them are premature. They die before they're real old. And she said, what am I going to do? How am I going to raise the kids? I don't know how to pay the bills. And he had life insurance at work, but I don't know how much it is. I said, well, why don't we call his work? We call his work, find out it's 15 grand or 25 grand. And she goes, well, we owe 140,000 on our house. And she said, we got a payment on his truck and a payment on my car. And how much does a funeral cost? I got to go down there. I don't even know what to do. This is what I've seen with my own eyes and heard with my own ears. All right? You need to make a will out. A husband and wife, make out a will so that your family will know what you want done in case you and your wife went together in a car wreck, God forbid, or something like that. You say, this is a morbid video. I'm not trying to make it that way. I'm just telling you from my life experience of preaching funerals, singing at funerals, going to hear my dad preach funerals, hundreds of them we've been through. And I hear this a lot. Probably 75% of the time, they don't have ample life insurance. They may have some, but it's not like that guy. He had 25 grand through his work. He fell out of a tree, trimming a tree, and it killed him. And his wife he had $25,000 of life insurance on his job, and they owed total all their indebtedness. This was years and years ago. They owed $110,000 worth of debt on their home, on the truck, on the car, on charge cards, and then they had no money, and she still had to pay for a funeral. All right. Not only do you pay the funeral home an average of $9 to $10,000 if you have a funeral, but depending on where you live at, you got to pay $500 to $1,200 to dig the grave. And if you do it on a Saturday in a lot of places, it's even higher. You have to pay them more. Then you got to buy a tombstone, a small tombstone, little bitty small tombstones, $500 or $600. You can knock out $1,500 to $2,500 on a tombstone real quick. All right. So what are you saying? I know this is a little morbid to some people. Some people may have already turned it off. You might get mad at me. I'm just trying to tell you, I felt so impressed of the Lord to make this video because you don't see what I see. You don't hear what I hear, but I've heard it over and over, and we're not talking about once in a while, dozens and dozens and dozens at a time. My husband, and he didn't leave a will. I know he wants me to have everything. That may very well be, but if somebody in the family challenges it and says, well, he told me he wanted me to have the car, or he told me he was going to give me this or that, you might have a fight in court on top of it. So you want to get a will, and you want to get ample life insurance. Be a good steward with your money, and be a good steward over your family. The man's supposed to be the head of the household. That's the way God set it up. The woman has a very active and a part with her husband, and they should be on the same page. But if he goes, she's got to take over the entire enchilada by herself. And so please protect your family. I know this has not been a great video. I don't like doing one like this, but I really felt impressed with the Lord to do it. So the bottom line is, and I'm going to close, protect your family, put things in order, so that God forbid when I say when something happens, they have a song out years and years ago, if I die, prop me up next to the jukebox. It's not if I die, it's when you die. You're going to die. All right? You're going to die. And when the time comes, you want to make the blow as soft for your family so they can grieve and go through the grieving process of missing you. If it's a husband or a wife, they can go through the grieving process and miss you, and they don't have all this added burden of how to pay for a funeral. We're going to lose the home. We can't pay for it. I'm going to lose both the cars. I don't make enough money to pay for both them. Now I got to pay to have the grave dug. I got to pay for the tombstone. It's overwhelming. And I've seen people, men and women, mostly women, but some men, I've seen them just weep and cry and say, I feel like I'm losing my mind. I don't know what to do. I got to do all this. They got to make all these decisions, and they're very upset. So we need to eliminate that out of your life and to let your family know you love them. And I'll say this, the last thing, I'll say again, don't let your last gift be for your family be a GoFundMe page so they can let everybody in town know he didn't take care of us. He didn't make arrangements. She didn't take care of us. She didn't make arrangements. We didn't make arrangements for our family to protect them. Now I got to do a GoFundMe page. Now, if you've had one and you used it for a relative, I'm not mad at you. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm just saying that a lot of people have to do that. Do you really want that for your family? That's what I'm asking you. Is your final gift to your family going to be a GoFundMe page? All right? I ain't going to make no money out of this. I got no dog in the race. I'm not in on it. I don't have any problem at all. I'm not an insurance agent. I'm not trying to sell nothing. But I'm just telling you, term life insurance is not that high. You ought to protect your family because, man, oh man, I've seen this at funerals, and I hate to see people hurting, and I hate to see people making bad choices, and I hate to see people going to go without, and they know they're going to wind up losing the house, and they're worried about everything. I have seen some people have a nervous breakdown, either just before the funeral or shortly thereafter, when all the stuff sinks in and all the problems they have. You could take care of that in advance. Be a good steward. Be a good father. Be a good mother. Take care of your family. Make the arrangements. It's not that high. Take care of it. I love you. God loves you. I'm going to say, I'll see you. Thank you for your time. This time till next time, I'll see you. You have a wonderful day. And please, don't be mad at me. I'm just trying to help people to make their life a lot better, because the day comes, you're going to have to face it. God bless you. I love you. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for your time.